What's going on, everybody? This is James Grandmaster Faqs Boyce. This is the Faqs Project. Today, special guest, D'ante Colbert, author and creator of the Necros. Today, all right, for anybody that didn't see this is part one. This is the Necros part one for Nightfall. And today, he just put up his Kickstarter today for issue 2. So, for anybody that got the book, I think I got this book 2 weeks ago. And first off, appreciate you for being here. Thank you. I know for technical difficulties, it took us a while to get to this point, but we are here. What's up, brother?
Glad to be here.
Word. So, for one, tell everybody about what we expected from issue 1. Now, note, before we start there, you have had the opportunity to put this out. And no, I first met you. I think you heard me on Clubhouse.
Yep.
And reached out to me. We did an IG live to, I think it was maybe around 3 days. It might have been the same day that you put out the Kickstarter for the Necros Part 1. And now here we are, first day for Necros Part 2. So if you can tell everybody basically about yourself, where you're from, and what brought you to the world of dark fantasy in creating the Necros.
Definitely. So yeah, D'ante Colbert, as you said, go by the name DC Burton, pen name. Currently live in North Carolina in the Durham area, originally from the DMV. So a lot of pride about that, as always.
As you should.
Yes. So I've been writing for probably about 4 years when it comes to writing stories. And specifically with this story, the Necros, this is probably like a 3-year-old story that's seen many different forms, went from a short story, evolved. And I knew I wanted to make a comic book. I was like, this is the storyline I definitely want to take. And it just had things that I knew would make it a good story. Some of that action-packed, surprises and all of that would come together and make for a story that might grasp somebody early on,
Yeah, bro. Well, when you first described it to me, you brought up the fact of where, I'm tripping over the main characters. If you could let us know, Mattheus. Right?
Mattheus, yeah.
I got it all messed up. I'll be messing up people's names. All right, Mattheus, is it his brother or more so of a guardian to him?
So Johan, he pretty much is like a brother to him. So he's lived with him for probably the last 5 years. And they just growing a bond where they're basically like brothers, since Mattheus didn't have anybody else during the time.
Right. And he has a history with pretty much the beast that we're seeing in this series, because his father unsuspectingly was killed by one of these creatures.
Right. So yes, the creature, the Necros, that this story is named after, appears every 7 years. And it's one of those things, it's the duty that some people in the village have to go fight it. And one of the things on the cover of issue 1, you see the arch that Mattheus is sitting on. That's, you destroy the arch, and that's how you get the Necros to disappear. That's how you break his tether to the world. So his father was one of those that was chosen. And after everything that happened, Mattheus is just out for revenge in a way, and just out to really prove himself by going out there again, even though it's something that usually, once somebody in your family does it, you wouldn't do it again. This is something that Mattheus feels like he has to do.
Right. And now Mattheus, not only Mattheus himself, but this entire village is trained up to the point where they know within these 7 years that they have to basically arm themselves, take shelter, pretty much turn into some type of destructive force, because they know that the Necros are coming within the town, and it's not going to be pretty, because they've taken out family members. There's a legacy behind it, almost like a folklore behind most of the beasts within the village, to where it's almost like a rite of passage for every male in the village. Not even consequently saying that within every 7 years, like Pennywise from It, they reappear. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So and then one of the things is if you're inside the village, you're safe. So it does. That's where like that Attack on Titan comparison usually comes in.
Yeah.
Uh, you have these seven heralds, which are like the gods of this world, and they protect everything inside these walls that they created, just these borders of their cities. But those who go to the forest, which people have to go out there to get food. You got to eat. You got to get any of the supplies, travel to pass messages and all of that. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who still need to live by going through the forest. So they just know that this is one of them times I got to be extra careful, extra wary. Anything could happen out here. It just gets real dangerous around those times, and they just have to accept that's almost like a part of their cost for what is almost perfection.
Now, within the village itself, there's a name for it. I forgot because within the second issue, you're creating this map that everybody basically gets to see the entire city for what it is. What is the city called?
Yeah, so the city is Atun. So each city is named after one of the heralds. So their herald is Atun. So their city, that capital city of that nation. We get to see a full map of how it's laid out. We get to get a sense of some of the different parts of the city through issue 2 as well. We get to explore as we go along with the story. So it's interesting as I try to build and introduce issue by issue.
Yeah.
And try not to, never want to make it an info dump of any type, but just trying to ease the world onto everybody that's reading and really making it feel authentic.
Got you. Now within the society that's basically built throughout this storyline, a lot can happen within those 7 years that the Necros come and go. For one, there's a lot of people that basically take up arms and defend themselves, but there's also people, I guess, that sort of see the Necros as like almost godlike spiritual beings and take up like a cult following to them. Is that true?
Yeah, that is. So, with everything, there's going to be people who have their own perspective about it. So it's one of those situations where, the guys do what they can to protect, but it becomes one of those things. Well, if the gods can't defeat this creature or get rid of this creature for us, then is this creature more powerful? Is this who we should be worshiping? Right. So there's that little tie and tangle between how should we actually feel about what's going on and who actually is the most powerful and how do we deal with these things.
Yeah, because you probably have people within the village that are basically seeing as, oh, well, if we just commit sacrifices to the Necros, they'll just leave us alone and everything will be fine. So maybe the weak just have to go and then we'll be fine. You know what I'm saying? You see like horror movies like that when they see like a more powerful being, or in historical societies where like Mayans, right, Aztecs, when they worship the gods and say maybe it was like a drought or something like that, they would sacrifice a virgin or something like that in order to get corn and maize for the season, which was like weird, but this is what they did.
Right. It's all based on what you thought up and what made sense to you at the time.
Right.
So yeah, we get to see a little bit of like, I know, especially in issue 3 and a little bit further on, we get to see a little bit of how that plays out. How there are these different factions within society that do believe different things. It's not necessarily that the people in Atun are the type of people to kick anybody out though. So we have this society that's supposed to be all accepting. So these are people that may live around you, even though you may not trust their motives or what they believe. These are people that live around you, and it can at times create a little bit of tension in how that plays out.
Now, if in describing the Necros, are they more so creatures that just show up every 7 years, or do they just embody? Are they like spirits that embody like just random other creatures in order to form themselves and take over?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So in issue 1, we get to see a little bit of it, but we get to see the Necros, what they call infect. So The Necros, I mean, it has a physical form, but at the same time, it is a spirit, and it can sway other spirits and other living creatures. So we get to see a little bit of that in issue 1. And, not only does it have a, mental effect, but these, it also leads to some physical alterations that can make these animals that are already somewhat dangerous, not only more aggressive, but now more dangerous in their stature and how they move. So it can have an effect like that. But the Necros itself, it kind of forms the body. So in the initial, the Nightwalker poster and the metal print that came out with the issue 1 Kickstarter, if you look closely at that, you see a lot of bones, tar, and his arms almost look like wood. He like pulls together organic matter to craft himself a body.
So like the spirit just forms itself.
Exactly.
Or it can embody another creature. Because I remember in those last 3 pages, it was just a regular deer just walking around the forest. And that deer didn't look like a deer in the last 2 pages.
Right.
Right. So within the society, of course, there's a, I guess, not a full scale army, but more so like a trained up self-defense type army. Not necessarily, and no, this is not a time where people are like arming themselves with guns or knives or anything. They're in the middle of the forest.
Right.
It fix, you know what I'm saying? It's more so, bow staff fighting, as well as just like guys training up to basically just take on in hand-to-hand combat more than anything.
Right. We're talking swords, bows, shields, all that type of stuff. So.
Right. Now, do we see a more, I guess, a more modern sense of weaponry when they get to the city of Atun? Am I saying that correctly?
Atun. Yeah. So, not necessarily more in the sense of like, we get towards guns or anything. We'll see some more special weaponry. Yeah. So we'll definitely see them pull out some more whips and sticks, some more of the shiny objects. But I think in issue 1, they really are focusing on during training, especially the mental aspect of just trying to be prepared, as well as really trying to build up that strength. So we don't see a lot of the special tools that they use when they're just doing their day-to-day training. As we get further along, we get to see some of the weapons they actually take out there when they're going to fight something of this stature. So, they're called hunters because, 6 years, that's all they do. They go out, they hunt, they bring back some food. That 7th year, that's when they really switch to, all right, now we need to use the best of the best to really try to fight for our survival.
Now, you told me a little secret in the last IG Live. Mattheus's father.
Mm-hmm.
Is there more references towards him in the second book?
Yes. So we get to see a little bit of Mattheus at the beginning of issue 2, just seeing how he's still haunted by the disappearance of his father. Mm-hmm. Issue 3, we get a little further into it, trying to build up to that a little bit each issue. But yes. So there we get to, as we learn to understand Mattheus more, we also get to see more of his backstory to understand, we understand him in the present, but also understand the past that made him this way. And that's really the balance that's struck between these issues. 21 pages 22 pages can be really quick. So have to balance it all out. But there's definitely, when it comes to everyone in the city, and there's some cool characters we get to meet in here. So the elders will be featured in issue 2, and this is the first time we'll get to meet the elders, and that's understanding, okay, now who really runs Atun? We know there's a city, there's this town of people. This town seems pretty well organized and all of that, but who's in charge of this town from the day-to-day aspect?
Right.
So we get to see the elders, get to see Mattheus interact with the elders, and from issue 1, we already know Mattheus and people in charge don't necessarily get along.
I was going to say, so there has to be a little bit of butting heads because you're dealing with, if we're talking about the elders concerned, if the Necros show up every 7 years and these people are of a certain age, they pretty much figured out a way for themselves, however many there are. You said there's 3, correct?
3, 4.
Three elders?
There's actually 5 elders.
So they've obviously figured out a way to survive, whether it's been duping everybody or being a little bit subjective to get somebody else killed instead of them. They've lived through a lot of this horror. So generally during that time and space, you've had the opportunity to just like pinpoint out your strategy. You know how to put people in the forefront to fight your fight for you while you stay hidden and do exactly what you're doing, which can come off as a little standoffish, especially like if you're a young buck. If you're like, okay, if these things keep coming every 7 years and we've never killed them, why do we got to keep sitting here doing this time and time again?
Right. Yeah, and there's a little bit of that. So, the elders are those who are, picked and groomed to be an elder, picked by an elder before them. Those are people who never had to fight, the people who make the decisions, but not necessarily out there doing any of the fighting themselves. So,
right.
There is that difference. And then there's just that circle of secrecy of, we're the ones always put in danger, but you're the ones who seem to know all the information. Mm-hmm. And then there's just that struggle of like, okay, I feel like, I'm out here fighting, but do I know everything about why I'm fighting? Mm-hmm. And that's where a little bit of that comes into. So, there's definitely that dynamic coming into play of, that high class versus working class, and just there's a difference.
So there's a lot of classism going on. So they have a hierarchy, and they're basically the working class within the village has been taking up arms for the past 7 years, getting themselves annihilated, people losing family members left and right, while you just sit up here in this damn castle.
It's a nice castle, as we'll get to see.
I'm sure it is. You know what I'm saying? If I've had the opportunity to build this up and not fight for the past, 50, 60 years and everything, yeah, of course my shit gonna be nice. I ain't got to fight nobody.
Exactly.
Word. So as far as issue 1, for one, I will say congratulations because you were able to fund it in one day. I believe you're very close as of now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
set a higher goal, still close.
Like you're close right now. I remember when we got on, I think within the first 3 hours, you were done. And then even so, you've had the opportunity to partner yourself with Black Sands Publishing. You're now on their app. Yes. Because I have the app and I saw it on there. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, so what has been the reception like since it's come out? Towards everybody involved, once they've grabbed their Kickstarters, they've had the ability to review it and just basically like give you feedback on what they like about the story.
Yeah, I've definitely gotten a lot of positive. I think one of the most important things to me was making sure that Mattheus came across right. It's one thing to build a likable character who just has a very likable personality. But with Mattheus, it's in that hard space of I'm building a character who, by all means, is not necessarily likable. He comes out the gate getting in fights with other people, but still I have to at least give him some sense of, why should we care about this person, right. And getting that across. And I know Super Serious Comics did a full review of issue 1.
Nice.
And reading that, I could just tell like that came across exactly how I wanted it to. Probably better than I was like, their words are even better than what I had in mind. Like one of those things where it was like, man, it came across that well. So now that's been one of the biggest things.
Now, have you been able to basically get your copies out there to a lot of like comic book stores and everything? As far as in your area, we're opening back up now, so that's why
I know. So haven't quite got to that stage. So next for me is conventions. So
okay,
getting out there to do a few conventions. I actually had one this weekend in Maryland. So going back home for that.
Okay.
Got my stuff packed right over here.
Oh, so you about to leave?
No, Not quite. Just need to make sure I don't forget nothing.
Got you. Understood. Yeah, because let's see, I already know well, BlurredCon's coming up in July. I know Virtuous Con is coming up, I think, in a couple weeks. But the thing is, regardless, there is a lot of resources in order for a lot of comic book creators to get their stories in the hands of the people, especially nowadays. And
Yes.
with con season opening up, I mean, that's a lot of traveling. But you know, if you willing to put in the work, man, it's fulfilling.
Yeah, and I think especially for me, you can tell that some of the people who were making comics before quarantine and just went to some of these cons and had some connections, you know, they were able to even strengthen some of those connections and build up their networks more during this period. You know, I've been able to get somewhat of a network through you know, the Black indie community. But I think this is really just the opportunity as well, like not only to meet some readers and introduce some readers to the Necros, but just to meet some other creators and network in that way and start to make those connections, because that's also something that can't be understated.
This is true. Now, what do we hope to expect from issue 2 out of Mattheus and basically coming into the city of Atun, meeting the elders and letting them know that basically the Necros are here a little bit early? Why?
Yeah. So issue 2, yeah, definitely, you know, first we're looking at what's the aftermath of the end of issue 1. So, you know, what does it mean to Mattheus, who's obviously been waiting for, you know, his chance to get out there and fight this beast? What does it mean for, you know, the town now that they see that something's up? Like, okay, like the Necros has been coming every 7 years for almost 300 years. You know, it's been consistent. There's been no change whatsoever. So this totally throws everything they know out the books, and it's just now everybody's looking for guidance, and that's where the elders are supposed to come in, and that's where we get to see that, okay, maybe there's more to the elders than what they're telling the people, and okay, how does that play out? You know, when it comes to how does, you know, me as a hunter feel about that, and you know, them basically again, like I'm just a pawn to whatever scheme they had going on, whatever they had going on. So
right.
That's really where issue 2 is taking us. You know, I can't promise it won't be another cliffhanger.
Okay. Hey, that's what I like to see. Now, aside from the Necros, is there any current projects? Are you sticking with dark fantasy? Are you going to step outside the box and want to do maybe some type of like side stories within the Necros, or are we going to see something completely left field that we wouldn't expect from you because your opening series has done so well for you? That opens up to the public. Is there something like a pet project that you was like, okay, I've done dark fantasy, cool, this is a story I've been working on for the past 3 years. If I was to do something else, it would be what?
So for me, I have what I call 4 cities, which is just 4 major projects that I really want to accomplish. Anything else is just like extra. So there's the Necros, which is like dark fantasy, touch of horror. There's one story that is a lot more horror based than this. Another story that's a lot more action based that I have. And then one that's like a manga style, shonen type of book.
Okay.
So I have those 4. I think the hard part for me, I took in a lot of one of the series that I loved on YouTube was the Blueprint series that Complex did.
Yeah.
Probably like 4 or 5 years ago, probably longer. You know, time moves fast. But they did an interview with Todd McFarlane, and I feel like a lot of things he said, I've like taken to heart when it comes to like some of this comic stuff. Like, you know, one of the things he talked about was just like how he got into the industry, just breaking in and being like, you know, when I came into the industry, I wasn't trying to be like, you know, how can I draw better than Superman? It was like, how can I draw better than this mid-tier comic that's out, and then let me work myself up. So in the same way, like I feel like I'm working myself up, feeling like I'm getting a hang. Like first Kickstarter, got out, feel like for me, I didn't hit my timeline. I was like, I wanted to get them out fast. I wanted to get them in people's hands fast.
Okay.
So some of the issues that came with that is just like, first time actually having to do the production, shipping, all of that.
Yeah.
I think second round will be a lot faster. I mean, from the fact of just like, I'll be able to have the proofs done and set before the project or before the campaign ever finishes. So as soon as the money hits the account, I'm hitting the print button and we're good to go. So, I mean, there's a lot of lessons learned and lessons still being learned. And I feel like for now, the focus is just keeping on the Necros. And Todd McFarlane said, like, for Spawn, he was like, I'm not going to worry about anything else for 50 issues. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing 50, but
hey, he was actually right about that.
But yeah, I understand that as I'm going through this. So right now I'm about like a year in from like when I actually sat down and like started actually saying like, okay, I'm putting this in production, hiring artists, all of that. I'm about a year in. So my thought right now is to at least give it until the end of the year where the Necros is all I focus on.
Yeah.
And then open up to those side branches. I do have some side stories within the Necros that will probably be thrown in. Issue 1 through 8 will be the first graphic novel out of the 3 graphic novels. And with each graphic novel, the plan is also to have a short story that goes with it that becomes part of the graphic novel.
Kind of like a side story that's also like based within that universe.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So those are some stories that I've been working on right now. And then also just, even though I may not be in production mode with any other comic titles, there's definitely some other titles I've been working on, perfecting, starting to script them out in comic form.
Okay.
So yeah, it's still there. Just right now, Necros, make sure I'm getting it out on time to everybody. Yeah. Making sure I'm keeping up with cadence and once every 3 months. I believe there's a lot of value in a finished storyline. And of course, you can do a lot more things with a finished storyline. If one day was blessed enough to get a movie rights or anything like that, you need a finished storyline for that to happen. Though. So,
true.
Getting these out every 3 months so I can get through the first 8 issues. That's
story's got to end, brother.
Yes,
yeah, because look, there's been a lot of animes that I watched where midway through, I'm like, what happened? Word.
Exactly.
Word. Now, if you could tell us basically who are the team that basically that put the book together aside from yourself, the illustrator, the colorist, the letterer. Let us know.
Yeah. So all artwork in the book from the inside pages are through Atun Media. So when it comes to the line work, inks, colors, they're a team out of Nigeria. And,
nice.
They've been doing great for couldn't really ask any better. So I've been definitely happy with what they've been able to do. I've been staying consistent with them. Actually, we are almost done on the inks for issue 3. So yeah, we're keeping it moving, keeping progressing.
So how many series are we looking for within the Necros? Like how many series are you looking from beginning to end?
So I'm looking at 3 books. Okay. So I'm thinking each book will be the same 8 issues. I don't know if all 8 issues will be the same length. So
okay, so we're talking 24 issues.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But that's gonna be the complete storyline. So once it's done,
yeah. Now let me ask you: is it all 24 issues? It's already written out. It just needs to be chopped and put into those issue forms.
1 through 8 is written out completely. The other 2 books are plotted. And I fought with myself not to write them out completely because I like for it to still evolve and not be totally down in paper and set.
Right.
So I had the general gist, the general storylines, the major plot points. But every now and then, as I have some of these conversations, I think of things and I'm like, I need to touch on this a little bit more. I need to involve this in the storyline. And I let the story continue to evolve because I feel like once I sit down and write it and say, put a bow on it, then becomes more attached to it and don't want it to change as much, versus right now it's still living, evolving. I get to see how people respond to certain things and really get to incorporate them as we go along in the future. So it's not, I think when it came down to actually writing the 8 issues from the plot to getting the full script out, it probably only took me like 2 months of, sitting down, working on it. So, I'm not too worried about the timeline when it comes to getting the next script ready. We'll probably actually get it done probably the end of this year. So the end of this year, we'll probably have issue 4 out, and I'll probably start actually pinning down some of those scripts.
Okay.
For the next 8.
All right. So the Kickstarter is live right now, and you actually only put it up for what, 16 days? That's rare.
Yeah.
That's confidence. That's rare. Like everybody does 30 days.
I was like, first time, the middle was a big lull, and I was like, I feel like you have the people who want to jump on early, and I reward those people because that's what I was like. I'm going to day 1 print, have some early bird specials I threw out there.
Right.
So even if you don't catch it today, there's some early birds to try and catch. But I really just want to have that sense of urgency, and also just once it ends, I can get more towards the actual getting it in people's hands.
Okay,
so I'm excited for that part. And at a point, this is I tell people like there's no, I'm not selling any physicals besides the conventions in between the Kickstarter period. So like this is for me how I fund the book and also build up a fan base. Those are like the main 2 purposes of doing these Kickstarters. When I go to do, the whole like book 1 Kickstarter, that's something different. That's okay. Now I'm doing, this is the big project, the big shebang. But right now it's like, this is how I fund it so that we can keep going, we can keep seeing it. But I don't want it to take away too much from the actual creation process. So that's why I was like, all right, I'm going to shorten it down. Okay, I may lose a couple hundred, but honestly, it's like there were so many people who got it up front and built it up. And there were so many people who just waited till like the last 2 days. It was like, well, the last 2 days is the last 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. Because generally through Kickstarter, I mean, it's always like the opening days and like those last couple days, everybody like gets their biggest piles of contributors during that time. All right. Well, bro, I once again, I'm gonna put it there early because right now you're sitting, your pledge goal was 2,000. You're sitting at 1,460. So I'm gonna congratulate you early in the game again because I pretty much, this is a wrap. It's gonna be funded. You're gonna get the Necros 2 in your hands. Within 15 days of that, he's going to the printer. So
yes,
what I'm saying, he's going to make sure that you get this as early as possible. So D'ante, I appreciate you being here. Thank you again. You know what I'm saying? If anybody wanted to reach out to you and basically get book 1, because you say you basically going to be heading to conventions, but if they wanted to get issue 1 in their hands, how can they contact Soapbox Creative and get a copy for themselves?
Yeah. So the website, soapboxcreative.com. You can always grab the digital issue 1 up there. When it comes to the Kickstarter period right now, we have issue 1 as an add-on. So if you want to get that physical copy of issue 1, definitely visit the Kickstarter. And we also have in the trainer package, you can get not only issue 1, the physical copy, but the physical or the prints that were also in there. So you missed out on the posters.
Right.
You catch those posters in there. So
okay.
And those are the 2 places you can catch up on issue 1.
Dope. Well, for everybody here at the Faqs Project and D'ante Colbert, please get out here and get issue 1 of the Necros Part 1 and go to Kickstarter right now and see issue 2 of the Necros, because it's coming faster than you think. It seems like these 8 issues are just going to be flying off the shelves. You're probably going to be doing like 3 projects within 2021 and then a whole another 3. Man, you'll get this out as quickly as possible. But thank you for being here. This has been dope. Faqs Project, we are out.